Hi David, here's the last version of the brain map analyzer. If you have a different version, just let me know so I can send you the latest version, but I guess this one is the one that Justin had. So the brain map analyzer has three main sections, three main parts. The first part is raw data, so it's responsible for pre-processing the data and calculating the displacements. So how it works, it's like the input is an Excel file, which is the raw data file executed by, produced by the laser stuff, and what we do is we calculate the average, the mean of the location before the laser shines, and we also calculate the maximum uh, location after the laser shines, and so we subtract them and then we get the displacement for every point that the laser shines. This is how it works. So for the raw data part, this part is actually pre-processing the Excel file, so it takes some time in order to do that, because the Excel file includes a couple thousand numbers, and in this tool you're just going to do this pre-processing step only once, and then you can just jump to the graphs or the center gravity part, and you don't need to wait for the pre-processing step. So you first do the pre-processing part, and then what happens is that the tool buffers the results, and then you can easily go to the graphs and draw all of the heat maps, the graphs you want. You can do it a couple, anytime you want. You can just draw the graph immediately without waiting for the pre-processing step, because you do the pre-processing step at the beginning, and then you just go to the other part. So don't for please keep this in mind, that pre-processing step should be done only once. You don't need to repeat it again. Now, this is how it works. So first we browse the raw data file, and this is the sample that Justin provided to me, which I will email it to you. Let me see. So yeah, this one, sensor 2 day 011 trial 1. Here's the sample. So open, and then there's another input here called thresholds, max threshold and min threshold. This is not required to, it's not a required input. It's up to you. So if you want to set some thresholds in order to filter out the results, you can do so. So whatever number you put here for the max threshold, and any results greater than the max threshold is going to be considered as 0. And any results lower than the min threshold is going to be 0 as well. So you can just leave them blank. You don't need to put anything here, but it just depends on you. If you want to put some threshold, you can put. But anyway, and then there's three other text boxes here: the max, the mean, and the minimum. These are not inputs; they are outputs. So you don't need to put anything there. It's actually, after you process the data, it's going to report the maximum result, or the maximum displacement, the mean displacement, and the minimum displacement. So I'm going to click the process the data button in order to start pre-processing the Excel file. So it takes some time, but the advantage of this tool is that you do this only once. You do the processing step only once. And finished processing the data, and then here you can see that the maximum displacement which is calculated as 8.5. The mean is a negative number, and then the minimum is minus 3.2. Okay, so we're done with processing the data, and then you don't need to, do this step again. You just go to the next part. Let's go to the graphs, for example. Now, so the graphs has two parts. One is the map, which draws the heat map for the displacements, and you can also there are also two other buttons here in order to show the grid of numbers, which is a grid showing the results, showing the displacements. And there are two options. One is to show positive and negative numbers at the same time, and one of them is only positive, which is actually the absolute values of the positive and negative ones, right? So for example, let's click on the grid of numbers for positive and negative. And here we get this table which are the calculated displacements, and we have positive and negative because we have different directions and that are captured by the lasers. That's what it means, So positive, it means like the displacement was in the positive, direction of the y-axis, and negative, which means it was in the negative direction. Anyway, so that's why you see a lot of numbers here, both positive and negative. And some of the numbers are very large, like this one, 7 point something, so a major displacement has happened at this point. Or negative, or minus 2.7, and so on. 8.5, right? And so on. And then if you click on grid numbers for only positive, it's going to calculate the absolute values. So it's going to be the same table, but you just see that all of the numbers are positive. So it's actually just the absolute values of the positive and negative results. And when you click on this, see here, you get the report of the maximum and mean and the minimum for the positive numbers. So that's why even the minimum is something positive. Anyway, and then here you have two options for map. Here we have an input for the maximum for the color axis and the minimum for color axis. You can leave them blank, and let's see what happens. So here I'm going to draw the map for positive and negative numbers. I'm clicking this, and here we get a heat map showing the displacements. So here, if you click on this insert color bar, you get the color bar on the right hand side of the heat map. And as you can see, the numbers inside this heat map are varying from probably, I don't know, -3 to 8 something, right? And so like here in this part, we have a white space here, which is the one that the result was, or the displacement was 8 point something, right? And then the other thing is that, and then there are a couple features in this MATLAB figure here. For example, you can change the color of the heat map if you want. But so if you need more advanced settings, just let me know so I can show you how to do that. You can, for example, change the color of the heat map to any color you want, and there are some other settings here you can play with. So I'll just close this map, and let's put some numbers here. Let's put 5 for the maximum of the color axis and -1 for the minimum, and click map for positive and negative again. So we get the heat map. If you click the color bar, you can see that it's from -1 because we put -1 for the minimum for color axis, and here the maximum is 5 because we put 5 here, right? And So I can just remove these, numbers. And let's click on map for only positive. So it's going to calculate, so here, so it's, what it does is it first calculates the absolute values of the results and then draws the heat map. And as we were talking with Justin, I think this is probably the final result that you guys are looking for, because the displacement is important. I mean, the amount of displacement is important, not the direction, right? So that's why, in this heat map is showing us, for example, this area, a lot of displacements have happened. So probably the motor cortex of the brain is located at this area, maybe. And so because we clicked on the map for only positive values, that's why here on the color bar you can see it starts from 0 to 8 point something, and we don't have any negative numbers here. Alright, so as I said, you can use these buttons as much as you want without pre-processing the data again, because the data has been buffered right now. And only if you close the tool and then you open it again, of course you have to process the data at the beginning and then start drawing the maps. But right now, because we haven't closed the tool, so all of the results are buffered. Now let's go to the next part. The next part is calculating the center gravity point of the brain. And again, we have two buttons. One of them is going to calculate the gravity point for positive and negative numbers, and then the other one is gravity for only positive values, which means that first it's going to calculate the absolute values of the results, and then it calculates the gravity point, or the center gravity point. So let's first do it for this one. If I click this, here the black dot is showing me the calculated gravity point. And here you get the x and y value for that point. Here on the map, on the figure, the x value is showing the correct values. See, starting from 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and the x value here is showing us 3.5, which is absolutely right. So the x value of this point is almost 3.5. But the y values are not correct, so this is something that I have to fix later. But for now, just consider that the y value should start from 0, not 12, right? So it's 0, 2, 4, 6, whatever. So that's why here when it's reporting us the y value for the gravity point is 3.6, so this point is 3.6, right? So please ignore these numbers here on the y value. This is not correct. So the x and y values here are actually the actual locations on the brain, for example. And so I can close this, and then I can click here, gravity for only positive values. So it's going to calculate the absolute values of the displacements and then calculate the gravity point, which gives us this black spot here. And the x and y values are this 5.34 and 5.99 for the y value. And that's it. And then anytime if you want to set some thresholds here in the raw data section, in order to exclude some of the values, or in order to filter out some of the values that you think are irrelevant, if you put anything here and you want it, and if you want to apply these filterings, these thresholds, then you have to process the data again. So I click process the data, and it's going to exclude all of the values that are greater than 8 and lower than 2. So anytime you make any changes here in the thresholds and you want to apply those changes, you have to process the data again, and then just go back to graphs or center of gravity and do all of your calculations. So here, see, we get a report of the values, and so the minimum is 0 because the reason is because any values lower than 2 are considered as 0. That's why we got 0 here as the minimum. And here we just filtered out all of the values greater than 8. So that's why the maximum this time is 7.1. So we do this, and then you go here, you can draw the map for positive numbers and so on, and you can just repeat all of those features that we saw last time. We saw before this, and that's it. So just let me know if you have any questions, and you can just talk about it over phone, or if you send me an email, I will reply as soon as possible. Alright, thanks David. Have a nice day. Bye.